Obviously, as you've done all your top-down analysis, etc., of how the of the most recent bar closed prior to the bar relative to the time frame chart perspective, that encapsulates the given day's time period you're looking to trade, and then you look at the 1 hour and see how it is set up, like in regards of its situation at hand, and how it would be most optimal to see it set up, or whether it is already set up optimally in a way to go on side with the most probable direction that's poised to prevail, which you would also factor in how would be most beneficial to see or optimal to see the 1 hour chart setup, like based on the context of the situation at hand relative to today. Now, if we just quickly go through this, like really quick, just literally scan through everything. So you see this, like participants driven it lower, they've driven it higher, and then they started selling it lower right at the very lows. And then the way the 12 hours set up as of today, oh, hang on, actually, was that the recent daily bar close? Oh, shit. No, that's the way the GU bar closed. Okay. So yeah, okay, so how participants traded, like here, it looks like a newly ensuing push to the downsides unfolding, like I said, right? And so that looks like what's going to unfold, and I'm just going to get rid of the weekly open because I don't like shit on my charts, actually, to be fair. But yeah, if you then go to 12 and just like skim through everything, you know, look at this, it looks, like this is like short-term structure, so you adapt to the situation at hand too. How the market's been recently auctioning, like recently, because that's likely to prevail and continue, and how the fashion within regard of how market participants are likely to trade, like that trend of the way they are recently trading, like, is likely to just persist, right? And so you get up, down, down, up, down. So this is structured in a nice fashion too. But then you would obviously want to verify it because you are still sat at the lows. But then obviously you got the context of the daily and the 12 hour being bearish, and then the 7 hour kind of giving a wick rejection. You keep checking your next step lower time frames. You then see the 4 hour set up the way it is. It's set up nice to keep pushing lower, but you are at the lows still kind of. But like just with how all of the time frames are set up, it does make sense. And then look at the 2 hour. The 2 hours set up brilliant, and then obviously the 1 hour was also set up extremely well. I just look for a inter-session liquidity sweep right off the bat. And if you look at the CFD time frame chart perspectives, these give an even better picture, because I like to also check these, because if you notice this, like that's why I look at the 9 hour bar, because this 9 hour bar closes at 7. The 9 hour bar on the futures chart perspectives, which I'm looking at a CFD provider that also has the same like bar closes as the futures, but just real time, because I don't want to pay for real time data. But anyway, you get the gist. So then it's the 8 hour, 4, 3, yeah, look at 3 hours, 3 hours, like the 4 hour off the CFD, and look at that, it looks really good to push it over, nice push to the upside, and then just rounding out its angle, like arcing out in the trajectory stages, and then look at that, brilliant. So yeah, so like then I go to the 1 hour, and then I see how it'd be most optimal to see the 1 hour setup like, which it or for it to be already set up like, to then look for it, to then start to look for a setup, and that setup just is consistent of seeing the market trade above an intra-session liquidity point. So like the high or low of a particular key time period. So for example, Asia or Frankfurt or London, right? So, and that's not going to happen today. I mean, it's done. The session's done now anyway. So, but then what I was looking at is if you've got your bias set up like the 1 hour setup right, and the trend is set to primarily push to the downside over Europe morning trading session, why don't you just use the 15M2, like, and then execute on the 5? So like for like to just like, because like I barely get any trades. Like my last trade since the one that I lost, which in my head I'm kind of considering as a win, because my stop loss, I just got so unlucky, and the high was my stop loss, and it just clipped it with spread. Not even the market traded there, it spread it as. I know that's not a term, but you get the gist. And yeah, before that, I last had a trade on the 29th. But then, so I'm just thinking how I could get more trades, and how that could possibly be is like, okay, well, if the trend's primarily set to push lower and everything's set up right, Well, you can just look at the 15M and at those at-hand pushes what are unfolding and gauge when like their trend is likely to come to an end. So like for like to set up at the highs of a 15M at-hand push, for it to come to like its end, and then you know, you got like this, it's not really overextended, to be fair, you're right at the very lows. But then you got like a doji, and then you could see how that looks like on the 5M, see whether that confirms, and then it was, look at this bar close, and then just stop loss fit into this, and then the same happened here. Let me just track it bar by bar. Well, this is actually real time because I kind of forgot how it looked. But yeah, so then you pushed, so then you got this at-hand push going on to the downside, and then obviously your bias is bears, so then it pushes to the upside. It's still not set up that good yet. It's a wick rejection, but it's like, And then this, the way this bar closes, like amongst the way this push is already structured, suggests that this push to the upside's done, and then you could just flow on side with that, and then as of 9:15, the most recent bar closed on the 5M that closed at 9:15. If it closes right, you can look for shorts, but you have to have a playable range too. So it's the same concept. So you got a playable range here, and here you do also just have a playable range, which I would bet on. And yeah, it played out right, but this would obviously need some testing. But that wouldn't take much, you know, because you just conclude the direction, wait for the 1 hour to set up right. I mean, what would be a good one to see is the GU. So this is like real time stuff. But I've not done this yet. But like, so the 1 hour, I considered this as the 1 hour. I'm not gonna look. I just remember this was the 1 hour playable range, and then basically I needed to see an inter-session liquidity sweep off the bat. Oh no, yeah, no. I needed to wait for the 1 hour bar to close. It closed, and then yeah, the first bar off that next bar where it became valid to look for trades closed nicely bearish. But like, look, if you're tracking 15M structure, it's like you're right at the lows of this. Like you'd be right at the very lows of this 5M push to the upside, and then you'd actually miss it. So you'd miss it on this occasion, but you would make on this, of course. But then if you then look at the trade, the day that I took a loss, which, oh wait, this was actually North American trading session. Yeah, okay, this is actually nice. So yeah, this set up really nice. So like, your bias was bearish. Does this go? Yeah, okay. So this is when I'm gonna span till 5. But anyway, the way this push started to set up, wick reject. Based on how the next step higher time frames were set up, I would just, based on this snappy wick rejection, I would drop down. So you'd be dropping down at 15.45. Then you'd mark out your playable range, and then obviously, so yeah, I think this would be a win, but we'll see. Here, so you'd be executing here, right there, and then you'd have your stop relative to this. So yeah, so you would have it relative to this market auction, not for example 15-minute, otherwise you definitely would have had a loss. But it just makes sense to have it relative to this anyway. So this would be it there, and you'd probably want it at just about, there, and then yeah, you get a win. So there's another nice existing example. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at, just to get more trades possibly, but yeah.